vision, leadership, workplace-related topics. The Voices of Victory podcast show. Subscribe today. Let's go.
Vision, leadership, self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision,
Voices of Victory.
leadership,
Voices of Victory.
workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast. I am your host, Mario Di Leone, where we talk about all things self-esteem, confidence-based, workplace-related, and occasionally we touch down on narcissism, as well as how it relates to confidence. And here is going to be probably one of the best episodes you're ever going to listen to in regards to narcissism. Okay, let's talk about it. The 8 actions to stop a narcissist in their tracks. The 8 actions. Here we go. We're going to break it all down. I'm going to make it nice and simple. And if you haven't been on the show, welcome. This is going to be about tackling the narcissist, those self-appointed rulers of the universe who somehow think every moment revolves right around them. But don't worry, we're not here to fuel their illusions. When I do speak about it, I do speak about it as it relates to the DSM-5. And we are going to give you 8 sharp, psychologically backed actions to stop them in their tracks. And keep in mind, not everybody should go around diagnosing others, right? And that's the thing with social media and a lot of the channels is everybody wants to go around and start labeling everybody and diagnosing other people. And what's happening is we are misinterpreting others. Now, this is for people that have official understanding that the other person has been diagnosed with it. It's not just what you think based on a social media video. So we're going to talk about that. But this is a way that you can stop them in their tracks. And we're going to throw in some lighthearted fun along the way because honestly, I feel like we all deserve a good laugh while dealing with the drama kings and queens. The very first way to stop them is boundaries right off the bat, because your majesty doesn't get a free pass into your life. You get to allow or disallow who comes into your life. So the action that you could take is be firm and direct and polite. State your limits. I'm no longer discussing this anymore. And you have to be able to walk away. There has to be an action with that, especially if they cross the line. Now, a backup action to that is that if they persist, you got to make yourself less available because time is way too precious to waste on their antics. Now, the psychological fact behind this, if you've heard of Henry Cloud, Dr. Henry Cloud, a boundary expert, he says that boundaries are indeed vital for healthy relationships and, of course, self-respect. And narcissists absolutely hate them because they lose control over you. So if you need backup of any kind, you got to talk to a trusted friend or a therapist, someone who could remind you of why you're sticking to your boundaries. A lot of times, red flags come up, we ignore them, and that is a problem. So boundaries are worth it. And another thing is don't feed the drama. Don't feed the big fat drama monster. Stay neutral with what we call the gray rock technique. You answer their antics with a dull, I see, that's reaching. Watch them squirm when you don't take the bait. And the backup action with this is if they escalate, which they might, calmly say, I'm not continuing this conversation. I'm no longer engaging from here on out. And exit stage left. Now, the psychological fact with this is that narcissists feed off of your emotional reactions. So the research shows that when you stay calm, it deprives them of their supply and it leaves them feeling powerless. Now, if you need support with this, you're feeling stress, you might need to practice some mindfulness, get out in nature a little bit more because they're going to spin their circles but you need to decompress and get away. The next one is emotional detachment, because their words are just hot air. So the action is picture an invisible wall between you and their nonsense. Let their words bounce off of you like a cheap rubber ball. Now, the backup action with this is when the interaction ends, you've got to step away. You can't stand there and be a whipping post. You have to reinforce your worth by listing the 3 things that you love about who you are. And that's really crucial. Now, the psychological fact with this is that cognitive reframing, what this does is actually helps you view situations objectively. And emotional detachment, it protects your mental health and keeps you grounded. Now, if you need support for this, like if you're struggling with detachment, you got to speak to somebody. You got to talk to a therapist. You could take a look into NAMI.org, NAMI.org. They're really good. And a therapist, counselor, someone can help you master that skill and build resilience. Now, the other one is show them you're not their puppet. The action is you got to reclaim your independence by pursuing your own goals. Sometimes it's good to focus on you, whether it's a new hobby, a new career, a new direction, a new part of your life. Show them that you're thriving. It's not about proving, though. It's just more about focusing on you, paying attention to your energy, and then by the byproduct of you thriving, they will actually see that. It doesn't mean you should go and thrive as a means to prove, because that's chasing approval, that's extrinsic. I mean, really go and focus on you and focus on your thriving. They will take notice as a result. You don't have to pay attention to that. You should focus on your due north, your direction, your values, your direction, where you want to go. So it's important as a backup action with all of this, while you're focusing on the new career, the new aspect, you don't need anybody's input. You don't need their input. And the backup action is when they push back, you got to remind them, like, I make my own decisions. Sorry, and watch their frustration actually grow with that. Now, the psychological fact with this, in what we call self-determination theory, it shows that autonomy is crucial for mental health, being, and of course, resilience. So it's so important to have an autonomous life. And that's taking control of your life. That means weakening their grip. So when it comes to support, you've got to surround yourself with people who celebrate your independence, support you. There's people that support and challenge, and it should be an even balance. If they challenge you, they may disagree with you, and there's nothing wrong with having somebody disagree with you. What you have to understand is it helps you actually grow. But connect to a community or a group that shares your interest will help you grow. They'll support and challenge you. Number 5 is what we call the fact over fictions, where you shatter their fairy tale. The action is you got to call them out with calm, indisputable facts and say, actually, here's what happened, and we both know how it went down. Because what they might do is try to gaslight you. So they're like, I understand, and you and I both understand what happened. And we both know that what you're saying is not what happened. So keep that in mind. When you say, actually, here's what happened, that is your best line. The backup action is document things. If you have to document something, document the facts, date, time, everything, especially if this person is part of a professional or legal situation, might be a good idea. Now, the psychological fact with this is that narcissists, they gaslight you, try to make you forget something to manipulate others. Now, the whole point is when you present factual evidence, it protects your sense of reality and shuts down their lies. So when you document things, the whole point of you documenting is not to go tit for tat. You're not creating a crap list on them, a reason to throw garbage and trash at them. That's not it. The whole point of this list is that it makes you understand and have a record of how things actually went down. Now, when you write these things down, you want to write them down from a factual point of view, not some kind of wild, grandiose fantasy projection. You have to remain objective when you're putting this stuff on paper. Deal in facts, not what you're unsure of. A lot of people I've spoken to over the years is they have projections of, well, I think this happened. No, you don't know. You need to have some physical facts. So get the support. If the gaslighting continues, if it leaves you questioning yourself, make sure you have a record historically, seek a therapist or support, and stay grounded. There are ways to stay grounded. Number 6 is don't let them push your buttons. And the action is you can respond with neutrality. There's nothing wrong with responding in a neutral way. I'll think about that. I'll decide if that's right for me. That's another thing. I'll think about that. That works wonders. first and then disengage. Now, a backup action is after this interaction, practice some self-care. Please go for a walk, decompress, read a book, go out in nature, be outside. We're on our devices all the time. Indulge in your favorite dessert. And just remember the word dessert spelled backwards is stressed, okay? But here, don't make that a negative habit, okay? That's just a fun way of putting the word dessert. Everything in what's the word? The old phrase is everything in moderation, including moderation. To be moderate is not a bad thing. But the psychological fact behind this is that the narcissists, they thrive on reactions, and the studies on emotional regulation show that when you stay calm, it completely disarms their tactics. Now, if you need support with this, if you need an outlet, you could vent to a trusted friend, write in a journal and let go of any lingering tension that goes on. Now, the next one, which is, of course, number 7, is find validation within you. So avoid finding validation outside of you. You don't need anyone's validation. You're the only person that should be dealing in validation. Validation is intrinsic, but we don't do that. We are approval seeking, we're addicted to validation, and that's where the problem lies. So you've got to build a support network of people that respect and uplift you and let their courage and their encouragement replace all of that negative input from other people. Very important. And remember, they can support and challenge. It's not all about support. Like, you can't assume that it's always going to be, green lights and rainbows all the time. So the backup action is if the relationship is draining, you got to lean on some kind of professional support group. So support groups are pretty good. Now, the psychological fact with this is Brene Brown, Dr. Brene Brown. The research shows that the meaningful relationships are key to healing and key to resilience. So it's all about meaningful connections. So having a support system that helps you rebuild your confidence is going to be important. So explore local online groups, NAMI.org, and recover from those terrible relationships. Because you're going to find out and truly understand that validation, self-worth, self-esteem, it's all intrinsic. It's all inside you. It's not external. You cannot find confidence outside of you. You cannot find self-worth outside of you. You cannot find contentment outside of you. That the contentment in objects, people, and things is temporary. So you have to have a level of contentment on the inside. Number 8, walk away like the boss that you are. So set your firm boundaries, such as I've decided to step back from this relationship and I'm no longer going to move forward. Stick to that. And the backup action is you have to go no contact, but just be straightforward. Straightforward first. If you have to go no contact with them, that's fine. Block them on all fronts to protect your peace. But I'll tell you one thing, too many people are blocking way too easy without saying what needs to be said. You gotta remember, communication is not always about them listening or you not listening or, communication is a two-way street, but sometimes you have to be able to express where you are before moving on because you don't want to bottle things up. You don't want to hold things inside. So the psychological fact here is that if you distance yourself from a narcissist, it aligns with recovery strategies, which is helping you regain control, regain some emotional stability in your life. So leaving can be tough, and reaching out to a therapist could also be tough because you have to navigate the process. You're not familiar with it, but you need support. You need guidance. So in conclusion, those are literally 8 ways to stop a narcissist in their track. And all of it is backed by psychology and sprinkled with a little bit of fun and joy to kind of lighten the load, lighten the mood. And when your well-being comes first and you feel overwhelmed, you've got to lean on a support network or seek some kind of outside help. And you've got this. You got to stay strong. And remember, validation should be internal, not external. Got it? Very important. Self-worth, confidence, all of these things are internal. When we're constantly chasing all of these externals all the time, we're handing over our self-esteem to the rest of the world. And that's it for Voices of Victory. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you on the next episode.